right, welcome everybody. This is Greg Evans from the Hashtag Show, and I am here with an iconic comic writer. You guys might know him from, a few comics he has done, Batman, Justice League, just some small things like that over at DC. But I'd like to welcome Scott Snyder here today. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, Greg. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here as well. And today we're just pretty much talk about some of your new projects that you're working on, Comixology, that a lot of people, some people aren't familiar with yet, which is a new way to kind of take a look at your comics from the standard paper format, which is pretty different for some people. But obviously, when people hear your name, Scott Snyder, they're automatically going DC, Batman, sure. Justice League, Detective Comics, things like that. But obviously, you started a new venture with Best Jacket Press, and tell me a little bit about that venture and then how you got involved into where you're at right now.
Yeah, sure, man. And believe me, like DC still has a big part of my heart. I talk to them all the time. I'm talking to Marie on Monday. So just we catch up and chat. And I still have like a lot of stuff I'd love to do there sometime soon. You can see like I'm wearing my DC thing, that best gift they ever gave at one of the summits. So and there was a bag. It's the Daily Planet on it. I still have that too. So but yeah, so what happened was it was about 2 years, it was about 2018 when I started talking to the higher ups at DC about taking some time off and wanting to do like one big last kind of hurrah that I had pitched them when we were doing death metal, like the sequel that would kind of be a bigger, broader meditation on comics and, more fun, more evil Batman, more crazy, but it would also kind of make sense of DC continuity in a way that I think a lot of other stories had done really well. Doomsday Clock and Multiversity, and had set up sort of systems that would explain DC continuity, but had sort of then been almost sidelined or hadn't been kind of hooked up and connected to the whole circuitry of DC in a way that had everything respond to those ideas. So we wanted to do something with death metal that would really incorporate everything that had been done, including those, and make a story that would say, listen, everything that you've ever loved in DC Comics happened. It happened in different timelines. It happened when time was folded. It happened in all kinds of different things, but the heroes now remember all of that. Everything's whole. Let's move forward now in a singular way where every story you've ever loved counts, just the way you as a fan, whether you've read one story or 1,000 story counts. And we're all in it together, and let's go forward in a bold and daring way. And so I knew that once that story was over, I was going to take a break. And I had so many things I wanted to do story-wise on my own. I had like 10 years worth of indie books in my head that I was dying to do. And so Marie, and first Dan DiDio, and then Dan exited the company, and Marie was put in charge, and Marie was already my best friend there from Metal. She was the editor on the first Metal and along with the great like Tay Taylor, but Marie kind of oversaw everything I did from 2016, 2017 on. So we were very close. And I was telling her, I was like, I got to leave after death metal, or I never will. And she was super supportive, and they created a landing place for me to come back if I want, a story that death metal kind of set up that would be a big one on the other side too. And then they kind of let it float, so I can kind of go back and do it whenever makes the most sense. But I was just like, look, I'm going to start my own company. I had a company already privately that I used for as a LLC for payments and that stuff, Best Jacket. And I was like, I'm going to make it public, and I want to start making books, not at any one publisher, but just make the books with my friends and creators that inspire me. And then see where we land. Maybe we'll do some at Image, maybe we'll do some at Comixology, maybe we'll do some at Dark Horse or IDW, or just maybe we'll kickstart some, who knows? So I started squirreling away these books in 2017, 2018, 2019. So some of them had been worked on for quite a while with like Night of the Ghoul. We started teasing all the way back in like 2018, and Clear we started working on in 2019. So they've been in the works a long time as these passion projects. And then the pandemic hit. And what happened was it became clear that I really had to talk to the other co-creators and say, look, we got to either, do you want to do this or do you want to go back to Marvel and DC, which I would completely respect, and support in this time when everyone has to worry about where's their next paycheck going to come from when everything is shutting down, and we didn't know how long it would last. Now we're all like, things reopened, in some way with comics by summer, but we didn't know that at all at that time too. And so I talked to Image. They wanted to do Noctera. We kept Noctera over there and did a Kickstarter to support it. But it became really about this moment where I think a lot of creators really had to make some choices. And for me, the choice was I have enough, I think, to be able to pay for some of the books. What I'm just going to take the risk and do that still. And DC was extremely kind about like, do you want to come back and do the project that we had set up right away? So that way you have a safe landing spot now in this times. And so it was tough. My wife was really supportive and was just like, do the thing you've been wanting to do a long time and we'll figure it out, even if money gets tight and that stuff. So I started doing that and working on 3 to 4 of the books that we have lined up at Comixology. And I decided to have a real talk with them because I saw them still courting and publishing some really interesting books by new up and coming creators. And I said, look, the only thing really missing for me with your deal is doing books in print also. Like if you were doing the books digitally and then you were doing them in print in a different format. And they were like, well, that's the deal we're working on right now. We're just finalizing it with Dark Horse. So then I said, okay, well, how many, let me show you the books I'm working on, because if that's what you're doing, I'm super interested. And the reason I was super interested in it were like, there's 3 reasons, honestly. Not to go down a rabbit hole on this one question, Greg, not to like talk my head off, but just taking a sip of coffee. I was so funny. I was like just getting a coffee over a couple miles away, and it's right near my kid's school. And I was getting a coffee and driving away, and my kid, who's 14, came out of the school with his friends and was walking, and he saw me with the coffee, and he was so embarrassed and that stuff. Like it was just one of those dad moments where he texted me, he's like, "Why are you around my school?" And I was like, "I'm spying on you, kid. Like that's why." So, but anyway, the 3 reasons for me were the pandemic made me really honestly want to do books in a very affordable way for readers. And I rethought the idea of doing them all in print, where every book would be singularly priced and expensive. So instead of spending $20, $30 a month on my books, I was like, is there a way to do a subscription-based thing? And Comixology is a subscription-based service. So that way you can pay for 1 comic a month and get all of them, which I probably shouldn't be promoting as much because it probably makes more sense if you bought them singularly in terms of what we make. But I believe in that aspect of it. Secondarily, in addition to wanting to make them affordable, I really wanted to make sure everybody had good rates and that we retain the ancillary rights, meaning the movie and TV rights. And that's their deal. They let you keep everything. And they pay great page rates, especially in bad times. They were very kind about the artists' page rates. So that was good. And the third thing, which maybe is the most important, I don't know, was that I just came out of, with the pandemic, I just didn't want to do things the same way that felt like they were partly contributing to a fragile system. Like, I really genuinely believe, and people can argue with me, although for the most part, people haven't, but I mean it. I'm ready to have that conversation if anyone wanted to. I genuinely believe in my heart, like on my kids, that digital and print need to work better together if we're going to have a stronger industry in the coming years. And instead of keeping digital competitive by saying, well, the content needs to be exactly the same, the price point needs to be exactly the same, the release date needs to be exactly the same, that forces it into a position where people have to choose, do I want to read this digitally or do I want to read it in print? Because if I can't make it to the store one week, I'll buy it digitally. I'm not going to buy the exact same book for the same price in print. It just doesn't make sense. So you're putting it in a position where it's this weird either or. And I feel like the right way to do it, in my opinion, is to have digital be a browsing subscription-based service where you can borrow comics and read lots of things that are available to you. And then you go to the store because you want to pick up the physical, because you have the money to, because you only pay a subscription. once a month, to browse all these great comics, and it creates a desire to own them. I own the ones you love, as opposed to going and trying out a comic, for $5 that you might wind up being like, I like it, but I don't like it enough to continue with that price. Maybe you like it enough to give it a 2 issues or 3 issues read because you're paying for it in subscription digitally, and then you love it, and then you go buy it. You buy the trade or you buy the issues. So for me, I think I believe in what we're doing in the way that I feel as though doing books this way, where you can get, and that's why I have them releasing weekly. So we're doing 3 books like in a wave, and then 3 books in the next wave in spring, and you can get all 3 for the price of one book, one comic book every month. But the other thing that it gives you access to, or Comixology has like 40,000 plus titles available, from Saga to Batman Year One to Dark Knight Returns to Monstrous, like lots of great first issues, lots of full trades, from classic books to brand new creators that they're promoting, people that are really interesting and emergent voices in the industry, and you get all of that for the same price. So for me, the idea of saying, listen, watching my kids fall in love with anime and manga and comics and video games, and they're like their childhood passions during the pandemic again, and wanting to find the joy again and all of those things. I feel it's like saying, go fall in love with comics again. Get a $5.99 a month subscription, whatever it is, or $4.99, and go read as many comics as you want, including mine. And then if you love them, you go to your store and you pick them up. You pick up and our content is going to be different, to be clear too. I'm trying to show people how I think it should be done. So We Have Demons, when it comes out in print, will have script, it'll have different material in it, back matter, than the digital.
That's what I was getting ready to kind of ask you about that. Is there going to be like some differences and some like more surprises when it comes out on print than what you actually read on the digital format?
Yeah, totally. And it also have like, some of the books we're going to do single issue. So we're going to do them and have variant covers and the whole thing when they come out at Dark Horse, and they come out 6 months after they come out digitally. So Demons will come out. We Have Demons will come out in, I think it's like March or April, 2022. And then Clear the next month, and Ghoul the next month. And some of the books we'll do as trades, and some we'll do as single issues. It all depends on kind of what we think the retailer response and push would be for particular books. So like We Have Demons, it's a pretty good guess, even though I don't think I'm technically allowed to say, but it's a pretty good guess we're going to do single issues with variants next. Greg and I have a pretty heavy fisted direct market presence, whereas a book like Barnstormers with Tula Lotte, I love the book to death. It's like a historical fiction book about a pilot who meets a runaway, and the two of them have this kind of deadly adventure. But that's not a book that I think has the same kind of direct market, in print, single issue muscle. And I think it reads better, honestly, as one collected beautiful book. So it's likely a book we'll do as trade, and it won't glut the shelf that way. You won't have to choose that month between like 2 single issues, and So I think the benefit of doing it the way we're doing it, to be honest, is that it allows us to optimize the way that the way that we invite you to read it, really, or you're allowed to read it digitally. So you can come in and read everything in this big immersive experiential way for really low price. And then we're releasing it in print in formats that benefit retailers, some trades, some not. Some book plates we're going to sign for signed books. Like, we're going to try all kinds of stuff that make the direct market push special for the direct market. And so I believe in that format. And again, I'm just a writer. I've been a fan since I was nothing, since I was like, a baby. I care deeply about the industry, and my goal with this is to do something that I think, follows a template that I believe in a little bit, and hopefully will show a different way of doing things that I believe would make the industry stronger if it was more widely embraced on the other side.
And I think you pretty much read my notes on my computer screen. You knocked out everything for me, so thank you for that. But what I thought was interesting, Dark Horse has made some news, quite a bit lately, and especially yesterday after announcing, that they're going to be doing, Star Wars again.
Of course, yeah.
How important was it for you to have Dark Horse work with you on this and get?
It was crazy important. I wouldn't have done it if there wasn't a print component. That the whole goal was to have, digital and print. And I love Comixology. Chip Mosher and the people that work there, they're such huge comic fans, and I mean, they support. The thing is, like, people don't realize how much they support in physical comics and conventions. Like, they support. They're when you go to an artist alley in New York, it's like Comixology Artist Alley, and when you go to Thought Bubble, it's sponsored Comixology. Like, they sponsor so many things that don't that aren't competitive. It's not about digital versus print. It's about one giant community where you can read multiple ways and fall in love with things multiple ways. And if you look at like the manga model, it's exactly that. I mean, my kids read everything digitally through Shonen Jump and Crunchyroll, and then they go and they buy the volumes that they want or the box sets that they want. And the store for me has always been an experience. You always like I had my comics on pull list that was mailed to me when I was a kid because I used to go to sleepaway camp and that stuff. Yeah. But I still went to the store every Wednesday with my dad, even though I knew my comics were coming in the mail, because I liked going to see them on the rack and talk to the people there and all of it. It's like going to a sports bar, or for your team. Like, that's the thing. So for me, it's about making those things, work really well together in that way. And so Dark Horse was key, and I love the people at Dark Horse as well. Mike Richardson has been a real joy to talk to, and Daniel Chabon over there, and the whole team has been great. And they're making sure that the print books are really special, and I love that about them. And it's an honor to be with in the same place that did Hellboy and Aliens and all the stuff that I loved when I was growing up too.
So, and that's the thing with comics, if you're a true fan, you're going to buy the copies. I mean, how many covers are, like you said, the covers out there. I can't tell you how many different Star Wars covers of one issue, especially I have sitting around in my office and
right
like that. So that's definitely a big thing. So now we're talking about the comics. Let's talk about your projects a little bit here. Sure. I know you've got 3 projects that we kind of talked about a little bit. The Night of Ghoul, We Have Demons, and Clear. You can just tell everybody about these projects, and I know you're on episode issue 2 coming out, or just came out on a couple of
Tuesday.
them. So
they come out every Tuesday, and it's like every month is the new number. So like October was We Have Demons #1, Clear we 1, and Night of the Ghoul 1. This month, last week was We Have Demons 2. This week is Clear 2. The coming Tuesday will be Night of the Ghoul 2, and then so on. November will be the same. I mean, December will be the same, and onward from there. And then when those books end in digital and come out in print, the next wave of books will start. So, and those books will be Barnstormers with Tula Lotay, Canary with Dan Panosian, which is a Western I'm really excited about, and Dudley Dotson and the Forever Machine, which is a YA influenced book with Jamal Igle and Chris Sotomayor. So yeah, really, really excited about all of it. But the first 3 books, We Have Demons, Clear, and Night of the Ghoul, are with like 3 longtime collaborators who are also like 3 of my closest friends in comics. Obviously, Greg Capullo, who my wife teases, she framed a picture of me and her from the Comixology party at New York Comic Con, and a picture of me and Greg, and was like, "You're 2 spouses," And so Greg Capullo is on We Have Demons, Francis Manipul is Clear, and Francesco Francavilla is Night of the Ghoul. So We Have Demons is like our huge marquee Saturday morning cartoon, but R-rated, like, all the big heart, big fisted, out of control action and gore of a 90s comic, but done in a kind of modern way. And it's written with real love. Like, it's about a girl who's in her teens when she discovers that her father isn't just a sleepy town pastor, but he was actually part of this demon hunting group that used to have members around the world, but has diminished to only have 9 left. And because the demon virus is rising. And his partner used to be this half-infected demon who's this huge hulking ancient guy named Gus, who looks a lot like Greg, in my opinion, but has the horns and everything like that. And so she teams up with her father's ex-partner to discover what happened to her father and to try and save the world from the onslaught of demons. And so it's got a lot of humor. It's got a lot of action, mayhem, blood, more blood. But it's written as something that's honestly, like, it's a kind of letter to my kids, it's about a child whose father wishes that he had done more to help instill a sense of faith in the future and in other people, or had more to show her as evidence that it's worth believing in those things, and how she comes to have her own version of that faith despite all of the kind of darkness all around. So I really love the book. It's very personal to me, but it's also like deep fried in this huge burrito of crazy fun. So that's the first one. It's got, yeah, Greg Capullo doing super muscular, awesome art, and John Glapion, who was our inker on Batman, doing the inks, and Dave McKeag, who did the colors on American Vampire, doing the colors, and Tom Napolitano lettering, who's a master and has worked on most of my DC stuff, honestly. So all the books are edited by Will Dennis, also, who was the editor. He was the senior editor at Vertigo for many years when I was there. He greenlit American Vampire and Why the Last Man and 100 Bullets, a bunch of stuff back then. So he's like my partner on Best Jacket as head editorial. And then the second book, Clear, is a totally different thing. It's a sci-fi book, and it imagines a near future where everyone connects to the internet neurologically. And the big thing everyone does is they skin the world however they want. Like, you buy these things called veils that are like filters. And that, if you want to look out and see the world through a 1940s, like black and white glam noir sort of aesthetic, that's what you'll see. If you want to see manga, you'll see that. If you want to see porn setting, everyone's naked and looks like they want you. If you want to see a zombie apocalypse, everyone looks like that. So everyone lives in their kind of subjective reality, even though the superstructure of the world is still there. And it's a murder mystery where the detective keeps his setting on clear all the time. So that book, all the books are really joint efforts. So Demons came from a place of me talking to Greg and saying, I want to write something for my like 14-year-old that's adult, but like, it's like, you know, he loved Stranger Things when he was 12. He's 14 now. I want to write something that's more R-rated that he can read, but it's about having faith in dark times, you know, and other people in the future, all of it. And Greg, I was like, angels and demons. And Greg was like, well, I love demons. And that's how we like, you know, started building the mythology about these two elements that exist in space. This one that people make weapons to fight the demons out of, that's the lightest material with an atomic number of 0. And the other that's the heaviest thing formed naturally that hits the earth in all these small meteorites and infects the water and keeps turning people into demons. That's called Horn, or Halo and Horn are the nicknames for the two stuff. And then with Francis for Clear, you know, he was staying here at my house with his family for a few days, and it was back in like 2018. And we were talking about things we're afraid of for our kids. And we really focused in on this idea of the kind of algorithmic sort of systems that they encounter all day long, where when they search for something on Google, or they look something up on Spotify or Amazon or anything, basically everything they encounter is designed to give them more of what they like, as opposed to challenging them with things that might make them uncomfortable, you know, or things that might just open their horizons more. Everything is like, oh, you like this? We'll have more of that, you know, like that. Can we offer you more of the same? When it comes to news and information, same thing, you know, like you see, like anything you look up, it starts feeding you more of the kinds of slants that it knows that you lean towards, which again, it can be a good thing in life. But when you're surrounded and insulated by that all the time, I worry that my kids are growing up in a way that is just so subjectively isolated from any kind of desire to go out and challenge the things you like, or meet people that are really different than you, or try and, you know, broaden your thinking in some way. So we wanted to do a book that was about this future where after a couple bad events, everyone has kind of given up in terms of, you know, facing any problems collectively, and everyone's kind of slipped into this, like, I just live my own life and enjoy what I see out of my own eyes, and I don't worry about it, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of the malaise and the decline that you see in the book. So it has this kind of sci-fi noir feel to it, and I really love it. It's 6 issues. It's like 7 issues really, but you know, oversized first and last issues. And then if people really like it the way they seem to be, we're going to come back and do another season of it. So all the books are kind of seasonal. So some of them are designed as real ongoings, like Duck and Cover is like a genuine ongoing. Some of them are designed as totally finite miniseries, like Barnstormers really is a set story that just has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it's over. And then some of them, like We Have Demons, and Clear, and even Night of the Ghoul, are designed to be seasonal ongoings, where if you guys like it and pick it up, and that you are so far, so we want to keep doing it, we'll come back and do another round of it, as soon as we can. Like, so the idea would be, genuinely to maybe do stuff every fall with it, or to just take a few months to, keep going. So some of them could be continuous. Some of them will take some months off and then come back. But, they're all different. Each one is its own thing. So, so that's Clear. And then Night of the Ghoul is, again, a seasonal one where we want to do a different monster with each season, make up a new monster, investigate a monster that you didn't know was as scary as it is. So this is Ghoul. I want to do a Banshee one next with Francesco. But the idea is that it's about a film that was destroyed in a 1940s studio fire that killed a lot of people. And it's supposed to be the greatest horror film of all time. And it's fictional, obviously, but it's made up, but it's The Night of the Ghoul. And this guy who's sort of never really made it and has worked digitizing old films stumbles across the remnants of it, is said to have been totally wiped out in this fire. And so he takes the pieces and he goes and he tracks down the writer-director of the film, this mysterious old guy named T.F. Merritt, who's still alive, even though he's kind of seems to have changed his name and be hiding. And he's in hospice care, dying out in the middle of the California desert. And he finds him there, Forrest, the main character, and he confronts him and it's like, what really happened with this movie and the fire and all of it. And so he has one night to interview him in this rest home, and things start to get scarier and scarier and scarier from the moment it starts. And that narrative intercuts with the fragments of the original film that Francesco draws in black and white. So it tells a dual story where half of the book, or maybe a little less than half, but a good portion of the book is the old movie, and a good portion of the book is what's happening in the present day in this really horrific way inside the rest home as it gets scarier and more twisted. So I love that. I love all of them. And that came from me and Francesco talking in 2016, 2017, back when everything was going really nuts politically. And it felt like it was the beginning of the super divisive, period where it was just like everyone hating each other all the time. And we were just kind of, both of us weirdly started watching old horror movies again. Like both of us are huge old horror movie fans, the Universal monsters and all of it. And so we started talking about, what if we made our own classic monster, but one that speaks to this moment? Like, wouldn't it be cool if we made a classic monster that was about fears right now? Yeah. And so the Ghoul as a monster, the legend, if it exists, which obviously it does, but in the story, you don't know if it exists for a while. The Ghoul is a parasite that hides in a human host and is as old as like life itself. And there are many of them, but this one in the story is one of the worst. And it hides in a human host until the host is old. And when the host dies, it crawls out and goes to another one. But it gains power by having the host eat dead things until it eventually is strong enough to release a civilization-ending plague. And they've done this and wiped out species and wiped out civilizations over again. So it's a very scary looking creature in its own right. It's got these very long black, it's like 7-8 feet tall. It unfolds kind of out of your body. And it's got these long fingers that it crawls in front of it like spiders, so it comes around the corner like with its fingers first. But it also is scary in its potential for absolute devastation. Yeah. So I love it. It's a really fun book to work on. And those are the first 3. So those come out again, like every week. It's like 111 every month. It's like 111, 222, 333. So if you sign up, Comixology Unlimited, $5.99 a month, you can get all of them. And then right now we have, next week we'll have 6 issues out. We'll have, both 1 and 2 of each of those 3 series, so you can read all of it for just the price of a single comic.
And I know, I was lucky enough to get a chance to preview a few of them, and fans out there, you guys are going to love it.
Thanks,
make
man.
sure you subscribe because it's definitely worth the read on there as well. So I know we're getting ready to run out a little bit of time here, so I got a couple quick questions for you.
I'll do lightning. Whatever. Let's do it.
The first question came about conventions. Obviously, we're getting back at convention season.
Yeah.
We just got back from New York Comic Con in October. It was great to be back to a big convention. What
Yep.
conventions do you have coming up that fans will get a chance to actually meet you and talk about your comics?
I don't have any lined up
No?
yet. I honestly I really want to go there's a bunch I want to go to, but I can't really do any in December
Yeah.
right now. In the spring, I'll definitely load some up for the spring. I can't do any though in the winter. I have the Witches. We're doing a. I don't know if it'll ever make it on TV. Like you never want to jinx those things, but we're
Yeah.
pretty close in that we're doing the writers' room for Witches for the TV show, and that starts in right after Thanksgiving and it runs through January. So for that, it's hard for me to do anything while that's going on between that and juggling the books that I have. So it won't be until spring that I can do anything. But if you want to, I think it's still open. If somebody's listening to this and they want to get their book signed by me, I'm doing this like big CGC push with Greg Capullo and Tony Daniel and Charles Soule, where we're flying down to Florida in a couple weeks to sign people's books. So if you send books into CGC, and I posted the link on my Twitter and Instagram a while ago, so you can look it up there. But if you want to send your books ahead, I'll sign them and they'll get sent back to you and that stuff. But otherwise, if you want to meet me, yeah, it'll be in the spring most likely, unless you come by my store where I do my class here. I do a class on Substack now, Comic Writing 101, and we're like 5 weeks in, or I mean 4 or 5 sessions in, and we do a different topic every month, like characterization or villains or openings and that. I love doing it. We have guests on. We had Donnie Cates and Chip Zdarsky, and if you sign up for that, not to keep hawking everything, but if you sign up for that, it's $7 a month. You get access to all the old classes as well, so it's all there, and there's a lot of fun stuff. So yeah, I'm doing that. So that's where you can actually interact a lot more with me, is through that Substack platform. And yeah, I teach at my local comic shop, so you can always swing by when I'm teaching and say hi.
All right. The next question is: so growing up, who was your favorite superhero?
Batman was always my favorite. I grew up in New York City, and Dark Knight Returns came out when I was like 10, and that book just made him so real for me. And then came Year One, and I was like, the city, everything that was sort of happening with Batman then made him immediate and real, and feel like he was wrestling with problems that you saw around you, whether it was like crazy Cold War shit and Dark Knight Returns about like, the Russians launching missiles and us, and or which is child of the 80s, or it was like, the urban sort of entropy at New York, all the stuff you saw in all those movies that painted it so horribly when it was down and out in the late 70s, early 80s, like that. So Batman was like, he was so real to me that it was always my favorite. Spider-Man was a close second because he was New York too.
And then the final question we got for you is: during your time at DC, what was your favorite story that you did?
That's hard. They're all like children to me. I mean, American Vampire was my favorite. Is like home base the whole time. That's the book that was the most me, where I could go anywhere, and Rafa obviously, but I mean, I could put anything in it because it was one of those stories that encompassed everything I love, from history and Americana and horror and big character driven stuff and soapy stuff and all that. So that had a real special energy to it. But out of all the stories I did, I mean, man, it's really hard because I love death metal and metal for what they are, and what they're about. And I love like Last Night on Earth so much because it's such the final word on what I think about Batman. And Court of Owls was like, I don't know, it's really hard, but I guess the thing that I was most proud of, I think when I did it, and the thing that I kind of look back at a lot with a lot of pride, is Zero Year, because that was the time that I really felt suddenly like I'm making something. Like up until then, I had been really terrified on Batman. I felt like it's like you're doing everything you can to just do the absolute best story you can before you get fired. And Zero Year was the time where I felt like we were taking ownership of the character and say, I'm making something that's an origin story about him that speaks to the fears that I see my kids having in very acute ways, and making something for them. And I don't care if anybody likes it, and that. And then luckily it did better than anything we had done so far, and people really responded well. to it, so it worked out. But I was ready to go to the mat for it regardless, and I love it for that reason. That it was us remaking Batman in an image that we thought was important for that moment. So, and making him less about intimidation or fear or dark, making him more about inspiration, basically about inspiring good people to come out and fight the good fight, as opposed to scaring bad people back in the shadows. And that was like the message of that for my kids in these crazy times. So 0 years probably. If I had to pick one, like guns in my head, I'd pick 0 year.
Well, Scott, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. We
Oh,
had
it's a pleasure.
it has been a pleasure just sitting here talking and listening about your new projects and everything coming up. I know the fans will be excited about, with that coming as well. Um, but again, thank you so much. Again, I am Greg, Star Wars Nerd 574 at the hashtag show. Again, thank you, Scott Snyder, for coming out and or sitting at home, I should say, chat with us today about your three new books. Everybody go check them out. Night of Ghoul, We Have Demons, Clear. Go to Comixology, sign up, check them out. You guys won't regret it. Great
Thanks,
things.
brother.
And again, you can follow us at the hashtagshow.com, hashtag show on social media. And Scott, where can we follow you at?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter still at S Snyder 1835. That's Elvis's birthday. I'm a big Elvis fan. And then I'm over on Instagram. That's like where I put more personal stuff, usually kids' pictures and stuff. And then Substack is really where I'm putting a lot of energy these days. They do a newsletter that's free if you sign up. And it talks about the stuff we're working on, gives sneak peeks, gives a lot of thoughts about comics nowadays and stories from the past. And then the paid subscription there is the teaching. So for $7 a month, you can take a class with me and that stuff on the same platform. So yeah, Substack's where I'm putting more and more energy, I think, lately. But I'm still on social media and all that stuff, and I'm easy to find.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time today. And everybody else, stay geeky.